The fluorescent lights of Benjamin Kapelushnik's Miami high school hallway buzzed overhead as he walked toward his locker, trying to ignore the whispers and stares that followed him wherever he went. At 13 years old, Benjamin was already different from his classmates in ways that made him both fascinating and intimidating to his peers. It wasn't just the pristine Air Jordan Retro 11s on his feet that caught everyone's attention, though at $400, they cost more than most adults spent on shoes in a year. It wasn't just the way he carried himself with a confidence that seemed impossible for someone who hadn't even started high school yet. What made Benjamin truly different was the way he looked at everything around him. The shoes his classmates wore, the brands they carried, the trends that swept through school hallways, not as a participant, but as someone who understood that style and status were currencies that could be traded, leveraged, and ultimately transformed into real money. "Nice shoes, Benjamin," called out Marcus, a senior who had been wearing the same beat-up Vans for 2 years. There was a mixture of admiration and resentment in his voice that Benjamin had learned to recognize and ignore. Benjamin nodded politely but didn't stop walking. He had learned early that explaining his passion for sneakers to classmates who saw them as just footwear was like trying to explain art to people who only saw paint and canvas. They didn't understand that each pair of limited edition sneakers told a story, represented a moment in cultural history, and held value that transcended its function as something to wear on your feet. More importantly, they didn't understand that Benjamin wasn't just wearing expensive shoes. He was conducting market research, studying consumer psychology, and building relationships that would soon make him one of the youngest millionaires in America. The obsession had started innocently enough 2 years earlier, when Benjamin's mother had surprised him with a birthday gift that would change the trajectory of his entire life. A pair of Nike LeBron Galaxy shoes that had been released in extremely limited quantities and were already selling for triple their retail price on secondary markets. "I thought you might like these," his mother had said, presenting the box with the pride that comes with finding the perfect gift for someone you love. The man at the store said they were very special. Benjamin had opened the box with the casual expectation of any 11-year-old receiving new shoes. But when he saw the Galaxy design, a cosmic swirl of colors and patterns that seemed to change depending on how light hit them, something clicked in his brain that had never been activated before. These weren't just shoes. They were wearable art, conversation pieces, status symbols, and investment opportunities, all wrapped into one incredible package. When Benjamin wore them to school the next day, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Students who had never spoken to him before approached him in hallways, asking about the shoes, wanting to touch them, taking pictures with their phones. Teachers commented on them. Even the principal noticed and complimented his unique style. For the first time in his young life, Benjamin understood the power of scarcity, exclusivity, and the psychology that drove people to want things they couldn't easily obtain. That evening, he sat at his computer and began researching everything he could find about the sneaker market. What he discovered opened up a world he had never imagined. There were communities of collectors who treated rare sneakers like stocks, forums where people tracked market prices like they were following the stock market, and resale platforms where individual pairs of shoes sold for thousands of dollars. The Nike LeBron Galaxy shoes his mother had paid $200 for were currently selling for $600 online. In less than a month, a simple birthday gift had tripled in value just by being worn a few times, and kept in good condition. "Mom," Benjamin said at dinner that evening, "I think I want to learn more about sneakers." His parents exchanged the kind of glance that adults share when their child announces a new interest that seems harmless but expensive. They had no way of knowing that their son had just discovered his life's calling and the foundation of what would become a multi-million-dollar business empire. The education phase of Benjamin's sneaker journey was unlike anything his classmates were learning in their traditional academic courses. While they studied algebra and history from textbooks, Benjamin was learning advanced concepts in economics, marketing, consumer psychology, and international trade from the global sneaker community. He spent hours on forums like Nike Talk and Reddit's sneaker communities, absorbing knowledge from collectors who had been in the game for decades. He learned about release calendars, production numbers, collaboration histories, and the complex factors that determined which shoes would become valuable collectibles and which would remain common footwear. More importantly, he began to understand the difference between being a sneaker enthusiast and being a sneaker entrepreneur. Enthusiasts bought shoes they loved and wore them until they fell apart. Entrepreneurs studied market patterns, identified opportunities, and made strategic purchases that could be leveraged for profit. Benjamin's first intentional business transaction came 6 months after receiving the Galaxy LeBrons, when Nike announced a limited release of the Air Jordan 11 Bred Retro. Benjamin had done his research and knew that previous releases of this colorway had become extremely valuable, especially in pristine condition. Using money he'd saved from allowances and birthday gifts, Benjamin convinced his mother to drive him to 3 different sneaker stores on release day. At each location, he purchased a pair in his size, spending nearly $600 of his own money on shoes that retail employees warned him were just going to get dirty when you wear them. But Benjamin wasn't planning to wear them. He was planning to wait. 3 months later, as supply dwindled and demand from collectors who had missed the initial release continued to grow, Benjamin listed his 3 pairs on eBay. The bidding wars that ensued taught him lessons about auction psychology, marketing, and customer desire that no business school could have provided. When the auctions ended, Benjamin had sold his $600 worth of shoes for $1,800. His first real business transaction had generated a 300% return on investment in less than 4 months. "Benjamin," his father said when he saw the PayPal deposit notification on his son's computer, "what exactly are you doing?" "I'm learning about business, Dad," Benjamin replied, with a matter-of-fact tone of someone who had discovered something obvious that everyone else had somehow missed. "I'm just using sneakers instead of stocks." His father, a traditional businessman who had spent his career in more conventional industries, struggled to understand how his 13-year-old son had generated more profit in 4 months than some adults made in salary increases over entire years. "This can't be sustainable," he said. "You got lucky with a few pairs of shoes. Real business is more complicated than that." Benjamin's response would become legendary in sneaker circles and later be quoted in business magazines across the country. "Dad, you're thinking about this wrong. I'm not in the shoe business. I'm in the scarcity business. I find things people want but can't easily get, and I help them get those things. Sneakers are just the product. The real business is understanding desire." The conversation marked a turning point in how Benjamin's family viewed his activities. Instead of seeing him as a kid with an expensive hobby, they began to recognize that their son had identified a legitimate business opportunity and was approaching it with sophistication that impressed even adults with decades of professional experience. Over the following year, Benjamin's operation evolved from opportunistic reselling to systematic market analysis and strategic inventory management. He developed spreadsheets tracking release dates, production numbers, historical resale values, and market trends. He created relationships with store employees who would notify him about unexpected restocks or exclusive releases. Most importantly, he began to understand the psychology of the customers who were willing to pay premium prices for exclusive sneakers. The breakthrough that would transform Benjamin from a successful young reseller into a national phenomenon came through an unexpected source: social media. In 2015, DJ Khaled was at the peak of his Snapchat influence, building a massive following by sharing his daily life, motivational messages, and behind-the-scenes glimpses of celebrity culture. As a sneaker enthusiast himself, Khaled was always looking for rare and exclusive pairs to add to his collection. When mutual connections told him about a 13-year-old kid in Miami who could source sneakers that even celebrity stylists couldn't find, Khaled was initially skeptical. But when Benjamin delivered 3 pairs of ultra-rare Jordan collaborations that Khaled had been seeking for months, the hip-hop mogul was impressed enough to feature the transaction on his Snapchat story. "This little man right here, Benjamin Kickz, he's got the sauce," Khaled announced to his millions of followers as Benjamin stood beside him, holding boxes of sneakers worth more than most people's cars. "When you need the exclusive kicks, you call Benjamin Kickz. Business is boomin'." The Snapchat exposure changed everything overnight. Benjamin's phone began ringing with calls from celebrities, athletes, and influencers who had seen Khaled's endorsement and wanted access to his exclusive sneaker connections. Within weeks, he was fielding requests from clients whose names he recognized from music videos, sports highlights, and magazine covers. But serving celebrity clients required a level of service and inventory that pushed Benjamin far beyond what any 14-year-old should reasonably be expected to manage. He was handling transactions worth tens of thousands of dollars, managing relationships with some of the most demanding customers in entertainment, and building a reputation that could make or break his business with every interaction. The pressure might have overwhelmed most teenagers, but Benjamin thrived in the high-stakes environment that separated serious entrepreneurs from casual hobbyists. He learned to navigate celebrity egos, manage impossible timelines, and deliver results that consistently exceeded expectations from clients who were accustomed to getting whatever they wanted whenever they wanted it. "Working with celebrities taught me that customer service isn't just about being polite," Benjamin would later explain. "It's about understanding that when someone is paying premium prices, they're not just buying a product, they're buying an experience, a relationship, and the confidence that their needs will always be handled perfectly." The celebrity clientele also provided Benjamin with something invaluable: social proof that elevated his brand beyond what traditional marketing could have achieved. When Drake posted Instagram photos wearing exclusive sneakers sourced through Benjamin Kickz, it was worth more than any advertising campaign. When Chris Brown mentioned Benjamin in interviews about his sneaker collection, it validated his expertise to millions of potential customers. By age 15, Benjamin had established himself as the go-to source for exclusive sneakers among entertainment industry professionals. His client list read like a who's who of hip-hop, including Future, Lil Wayne, P. Diddy, and French Montana. But celebrity sales, while prestigious and profitable, represented only one aspect of Benjamin's growing business empire. Recognizing that his celebrity connections gave him unique access to products and market insights, Benjamin launched sneakerdon.com, an e-commerce platform that allowed the general public to purchase the same exclusive sneakers he sourced for his famous clients. The website was revolutionary, not just because of its inventory, though Benjamin's ability to source shoes that were sold out everywhere else was genuinely impressive, but because of how it positioned sneaker collecting as a lifestyle choice rather than just a hobby. Each product listing included detailed stories about the shoe's design inspiration, production history, and cultural significance. Benjamin didn't just sell sneakers. He sold the knowledge, exclusivity, and status that came with owning pieces of footwear history. The pricing strategy reflected this approach. While other resellers focused on moving inventory quickly at modest markups, Benjamin positioned his products as premium collectibles worth whatever serious collectors were willing to pay. A pair of Nike Air Mag Back to the Future sneakers that had originally retailed for $350 was listed on sneakerdon.com for $1,250. To casual observers, the markup seemed insane. But to collectors who understood the shoe's significance, only 89 pairs had been produced for a charity auction. The price represented fair market value for an authentic piece of pop culture history. The high-end positioning strategy worked beyond Benjamin's most optimistic projections. Instead of competing with other resellers on price, he had created a brand that customers trusted for authenticity, rarity, and service quality. Sneakerdon.com became the destination for collectors who wanted the best products with the assurance that their purchases were genuine and their service experience would be exceptional. The financial results spoke for themselves. By his 16th birthday, Benjamin's combined celebrity sales and e-commerce revenue approached $1 million annually. He was generating more income than most adults with decades of professional experience, all while still attending high school and living in his parents' house. But the $1 million milestone also brought new challenges and pressures that tested Benjamin's ability to manage success while maintaining the passion and authenticity that had made his business successful in the first place. Media attention intensified as news outlets discovered the story of the teenage entrepreneur who was out earning Wall Street professionals by selling sneakers from his bedroom. Forbes included him in their 18 under 18 list of young innovators. The Guardian named him to their Teen Power list. Business Insider, CNN, and dozens of other major publications featured profiles about his unlikely rise to entrepreneurial prominence. The coverage was largely positive, celebrating Benjamin as an example of young American entrepreneurship and the opportunities that existed for anyone willing to work hard and think creatively. But it also brought scrutiny from people who questioned whether a teenager should be handling such large financial transactions and building relationships with adult celebrities. "Some people don't understand what I'm doing," Benjamin told interviewers who asked about critics who suggested his success was somehow inappropriate. "They think I'm just a kid playing with shoes." but I'm running a real business that serves real customers who have real needs. Age doesn't determine your ability to create value for people." The criticism actually strengthened Benjamin's resolve to prove that his success wasn't based on novelty or luck, but on genuine business skills that could be sustained and scaled regardless of his age. He began studying traditional business concepts with the same intensity he had brought to learning about sneaker markets. He read books about entrepreneurship, marketing, and customer service. He attended business conferences where he was often the youngest person in attendance by decades. He sought mentorship from successful entrepreneurs who could help him understand how to build lasting value beyond just buying and selling products. The education proved invaluable as Benjamin's business evolved from opportunistic reselling to a more sophisticated operation that combined retail sales, celebrity services, and brand development. He launched Boomin', a lifestyle brand built around the catchphrase that had become his signature during DJ Khaled's Snapchat features. The brand included clothing, accessories, and promotional materials that allowed customers to associate themselves with Benjamin's success story and the culture he represented. The Boomin' brand extension demonstrated Benjamin's understanding that successful businesses often transcend their original products to become symbols of aspiration and lifestyle. People weren't just buying Boomin' merchandise. They were buying into the idea that they, too, could identify opportunities, work harder than everyone around them, and achieve success that defied conventional expectations. The pop-up store Benjamin opened in New York City became a cultural phenomenon that attracted lines of customers hoping to experience the Benjamin Kickz brand in person. The store featured exclusive sneaker releases, Boomin' merchandise, and personal appearances by Benjamin himself, who had become as much of an attraction as the products he sold. The pop-up taught me that retail isn't just about selling products, Benjamin reflected. It's about creating experiences that people remember and want to share with others. When customers feel connected to your brand story, they become advocates who bring you new customers. The New York success led to additional pop-up events in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Miami, each of which generated significant media coverage and introduced Benjamin's brand to new markets of potential customers. By age 17, Benjamin's business had evolved far beyond sneaker reselling to become a multifaceted empire that included retail sales, celebrity services, brand licensing, and media appearances. Annual revenue exceeded $2 million, making him one of the highest-earning teenagers in America. But perhaps more importantly, Benjamin had proven that traditional assumptions about age, experience, and business qualifications were less important than understanding customer needs, identifying market opportunities, and delivering exceptional value consistently over time. The speaking engagements that began arriving as Benjamin's story spread provided him with opportunities to share his insights with audiences of established entrepreneurs, business students, and aspiring young professionals. His presentations consistently emphasized themes that resonated across industries and age groups. Success isn't about what you sell, he would tell audiences of adults who were decades older than him. It's about understanding what people really want and finding ways to deliver it better than anyone else can. I started with sneakers because that's what I was passionate about. But the principles I learned, researching markets, building relationships, providing exceptional service, those principles work in any industry. The international expansion of Benjamin's business demonstrated the global appeal of both sneaker culture and his approach to entrepreneurship. Customers from Europe, Asia, and South America began ordering through his website, attracted by his reputation for authenticity and access to products that were unavailable in their home markets. Managing international sales required Benjamin to navigate currency exchanges, international shipping regulations, and cultural differences in customer service expectations. Each challenge forced him to develop skills that most business school graduates never acquire during their formal education. Going international taught me that business is really about solving problems for people, no matter where they live, Benjamin explains. The specific products might be different, but the desire for exclusivity, authenticity, and great service is universal. The brand partnerships that began approaching Benjamin as his influence grew provided additional revenue streams and validation from established companies who recognized his marketing power and cultural influence. Nike, Adidas, and other major sneaker brands began collaborating with Benjamin on special releases and promotional campaigns, understanding that his endorsement carried significant weight among the collectors and enthusiasts who drove high-end sneaker sales. Working with the brands taught me about the industry from a completely different perspective, Benjamin notes. Instead of just buying and reselling their products, I learned about design processes, manufacturing timelines, and marketing strategies. It helped me understand the entire ecosystem, not just my small part of it. Today, at 25 years old, Benjamin Kickz has transformed from a 13-year-old sneaker enthusiast into a multi-million-dollar entrepreneur whose influence extends far beyond the footwear industry. His business empire includes multiple revenue streams: direct celebrity sales, e-commerce operations, brand partnerships, speaking engagements, consulting services, and investments in other companies that align with his expertise in culture, marketing, and consumer psychology. But when Benjamin reflects on his journey from bedroom reseller to international entrepreneur, he doesn't focus on the financial metrics or business achievements that impress outside observers. The most important thing I learned wasn't about sneakers or sales or marketing, he says. It was about believing in yourself when other people don't understand what you're doing. My dad thought I was crazy for spending $400 on shoes when I was 13. My classmates didn't understand why I cared so much about brands and limited releases. Even some adults in the industry didn't take me seriously because of my age. But I knew I was onto something real. I could see opportunities that other people missed because they were looking at sneakers as just footwear instead of understanding them as cultural artifacts, investment vehicles, and status symbols. When you really understand what people want and why they want it, age becomes irrelevant. Benjamin's story has inspired countless young entrepreneurs who see in his success proof that traditional barriers to business ownership, age, experience, credentials, capital, can be overcome by passion, persistence, and genuine value creation. The 13-year-old who convinced his mother to drive him to multiple sneaker stores on release day proved that the most successful businesses often begin with someone who cares more about their customers' needs than anyone else in their industry. From his high school hallway to celebrity DMs to million-dollar revenue streams, Benjamin demonstrated that understanding culture, identifying scarcity, and building authentic relationships can create opportunities that didn't exist before someone decided to pursue them. His journey from bedroom entrepreneur to international business mogul proves that success isn't about starting with advantages. It's about recognizing advantages in places where other people only see ordinary circumstances. Sometimes the most valuable businesses begin with a teenager who looks at the world around them and asks not, "Why would anyone pay so much for that?" but "How can I help people get the things they really want?"